A very good morning to all my students. Welcome back to your English literature class once again. I hope you all have enjoyed this Durga Puja vacation, isn't it? Some of you may have visited the puja pandals, or some of you may have stayed back at home and enjoyed with parents, with relatives, with younger brothers or sisters, isn't it? But anyhow, you have enjoyed your holidays, right? Compared with the previous years, this year your enjoyment may be a little bit less. You may have visited less number of puja pandals, but then also by your own ways you have visited the puja pandals, or you have enjoyed the vacation, isn't it? I think I have guessed right. Right. So, what can be done? You only say in this pandemic situation where the spread of this virus is day by day increasing in such a huge number, what can we do? Though we want to celebrate our Durga Puja, we need to stay back at home. We are helpless. We cannot enjoy ourselves like the previous years. That is not possible. This is such a crucial year where we cannot celebrate, we cannot enjoy with our near and dear ones so much. We may have lost our near and dear ones, like me. You all know this. But life is to move on, isn't it? Though this year is such a crucial year, where we cannot have a pure and proper breath, where day by day so many people are dying due to so many reasons in this particular year. We are losing our near and dear ones. This is such a crucial, this is such a cruel year. But then also we need to move on. Life cannot be stopped. Life is to move on. By keeping all these things with a fresh mind, with a good mood, we can start our next lesson from the second terminal syllabus. Okay. Um, Today we will start our first chapter from the second terminal syllabus, that is the Kabuliwala. And to give you a prior information, I can say that this chapter will be in your second worksheet. That also, if you have, means if you have the exam, if it has been told by the school that you will be having the exam in this online session, then this chapter will be there in your syllabus. This much I can say. Okay. Now, this particular story, the Kabuliwala. Now, so many of you can say that you have heard the story from your parents, or you can say that you have heard the story from your grandparents, or you can say that this particular story is movie you have seen in the computer or in the TVs. people can say, since this is such a famous story. Each and every Indian must be knowing about the story. This is such a famous story. Each and every Indian, especially those who respect, those who love our great poets, that is Rabindranath Tagore, must be knowing this story or must be loving this story. This is such a beautiful story. Those who know or those who have watched the movie of it, they must say that this is such a nice story. There cannot be a single human being or of India or maybe outside India who do not love to read stories or poems of Rabindranath Tagore, written by our great poet Rabindranath Tagore. We are very much honored, we are very much grateful to have such a person in our world. Though this person is no more in this world, but his writings are the most lively ones in our lives. From the very beginning of our childhood till our last breath, we love to read his or her his writings, not her, sorry, his writings, his stories, his poems. His writings are so famous, isn't it? So, this is the story named The Kabuliwala, written by Rabindranath Tagore, who was a Bengali poet, writer, and philosopher. He won the Nobel Prize. He won a prize named Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913 for Gitanjali, which is a collection of his poems. Now, students, you may have heard this particular word, this particular book's name, that is Gitanjali. Some of you may have at your houses. Some of your parents may have this collection of book. So, for writing this particular book, he won this Nobel Prize in 1913. He wrote Jana Gana Mana, which was adopted as Indian national anthem. Now, this you must be knowing. He wrote our famous national anthem, which we celebrate. Right. Now, this particular person has written so many stories, so many poems. Amongst it, we will study one of his famous story, that is the Kabuliwala. Now, before I start, as you all know, I like to give a brief introduction of the story so that you can understand about what it is. Okay, so listen to it. Now, the part that I'm going to discuss with you is only the introductory part. None of the questions will come from that part, and the part that I'm going to discuss with you right now is not there in your book. Okay, so listen to it and try to understand. Okay, Kabuliwala is a famous Bengali short story written by Rabindranath Tagore in 1892. Now, can you understand? This is a Bengali short story written by Rabindranath Tagore in 1892. The story is of a merchant from Kabul. This particular story is of a merchant. Now, this particular word merchant, always remember, means businessman. Merchant meaning businessman. A person, those who do business. Okay, or trade means also business, you must be knowing. So you can say tradesman, businessman, or merchant, all are same thing. Okay, this particular person is a merchant from Kabul. Now Kabul is a particular state of Afghanistan. You must have heard this country's name, that is Afghanistan. This particular person is from Afghanistan. Okay, who comes to Calcutta, present day Kolkata, India each year for selling dry fruits, and while living in India he becomes friend with a 5-year-old girl, Minnie, from a middle class family. Now can you understand what I am telling? This particular man, in order to sell his dried fruits, he needs to come to Calcutta or Kolkata in India each and every year. Okay, while staying in India, he became friend with a particular girl who was very much small enough at that time, whose age was only 5 years, and that particular girl's name was Minnie, who belonged to a very middle class family. Middle class means not at all rich, not at all poor, middle. Okay, the main theme of this story is the deep love. Now, as you all will read the story or go through the story, you will definitely come to know about the story, means what is there inside the story. In another side, if you think once about what the story is all about, you will feel that the story is all about deep love. It is the deep love that the fathers have for their children. It is the deep love that the fathers have for their children. In the story, we will find 3 examples of love. Now, can you understand? In this story, we will find 3 examples of love. What are those? The author and his daughter Minnie, the author means the writer of the story, and his daughter Minnie means it is the love relationship between the author and Minnie. The Kabuliwala and his own daughter in Afghanistan. Another love relationship, it is between the Kabuliwala and his own daughter who stayed in Afghanistan at that time. And the Kabuliwala and Minnie, and also the love relationship between Kabuliwala and Minnie. Okay. In the story, Kabuliwala comes to India every year to sell dry fruits and to meet the girl named Minnie. Right. So this much I think you have understood, and you have got a little bit of idea of or about Kabuliwala, why this person used to come to India in order to sell dry fruits, and he has made a friendship with a very small girl of 5 years named Minnie. And this particular story is all about love relationship between father and his daughter. Okay. Kabuliwala opens with the narrator describing his 5-year-old daughter Minnie. Now, this particular story, Kabuliwala, opens as the narrator. Narrator means again who is describing the story, who is writing the story. He is describing his 5-year-old daughter Minnie. Okay, she can't stop talking for a minute and is frequently scolded by her mother for it. Now, this particular girl cannot stop talking for a minute. That means this particular girl is like you people only, isn't it? Yes, this particular girl loves to talk like you. She cannot remain quiet for a minute. And that is why she gets frequently scolded by her mother. Okay. The narrator, on the other hand, thinks that it's unnatural when Minnie is quiet, and so he spends a lot of time to her, talking to her and answering her many questions. Now, on the other hand, the narrator, that means the father of the young girl, thinks you or used to think that this is very unnatural when Minnie remained quiet. So he spends or he loved to spend a lot much of time talking to her and answering her many questions. Okay. One day, while the narrator is writing, Minnie starts crying out, Kabuliwala, Kabuliwala. One day, while the narrator was writing something, Minnie starts crying out. Now, this crying is not crying with tears, this crying is shouting. Sorry, shouting loudly. So, Minnie starts crying out, Kabuliwala. Kabuliwala means she was shouting in order to call this particular person. Okay. The man she is shouting about is an Afghan in baggy clothes, walking along selling grapes and nuts. Minnie fears him, convinced has that he has children in the bag that he was carrying. Now, can you understand what is written? Minnie started shouting the particular person while she has seen him. This particular person was an Afghan. Means Minnie has noticed that this particular person was Afghan, and he was wearing such dirty clothes, walking along and selling grapes and nuts. Minnie, though she called him, was very much afraid of him. He became afraid of him. She was somehow convinced or thought that the bag he was carrying, it is due to the little children that he is carrying inside his bag, as though or maybe he has kidnapped those children. Okay, it is all about Minnie's thinking and nothing else. There is nothing as such. Okay. But a few days later, our narrator finds the Kabuliwala sitting with Minnie, paying close attention as she talks and talks. Now, see what happened? A very few days later, our narrator, means obviously the father of Minnie, found Kabuliwala sitting with Minnie, and both of them are sitting very close to each other, and Minnie was very much busy talking and talking with him. Okay, so only this much brief introduction I want to give you people. I will not give any more introductions to you people. You may feel boredom, you may feel boring while listening so much of the introduction. So hold back your interests, hold back your curiosity in order to know the full story. Okay, so now let us come to the story. All of you must follow your book. It is in page number 70. is the chapter of the Kabuliwala. Okay. One morning, I was hard at work when Minnie, my 5-year-old daughter, suddenly ran to the window crying, "A Kabuliwala! A Kabuliwala!" See, one morning, I was hard at work means I was busy at work when Minnie, my 5-year-old daughter, means the author's 5-year-old daughter, suddenly ran towards the window, crying means shouting by telling, "A Kabuliwala, a Kabuliwala." Okay, she was shouting by calling this person in order to show his father. Okay, and indeed, in the street below was an Afghan peddler dressed in loose, soiled clothing and a tall turban. Now, see, and as soon as this particular young little girl called the Kabuliwala, there in the street below, it was found that there was an Afghan peddler. Peddler means tradesman, a trader, a businessman, okay, or you can say merchant, whatever it is. So there was an Afghan. Afghan means again a person who belonged to Afghanistan, okay, as we are Indian, like that. So was an Afghan peddler dressed in loose means his dress was loose fit, okay. Soiled clothing and a tall turban. Soiled clothing means dirty clothing and a tall turban means he was wearing a tall turban. Tall means long enough upon his head, and turban, students, you must be knowing what is turban. See, in the picture it is given, okay. You may sometimes find such things upon the head of Punjabi peoples. That is a particular type of turban, not this type, but that is also a turban, okay. uh, Mosquito came. Acha, leave it. He carried a bag on his back and boxes of grapes in his hand. Now this particular person was carrying a bag on his back and boxes of grapes in his hand. Hearing her calls, the Kabuliwala turned and looked up at the child, who by now was terror struck. Now, hearing the calls of this young girl or little girl, the Kabuliwala turned and looked up at the child, who by this time was terror struck. Now, this terror struck means frightened. Terror means frightened, struck means surprised. She was both surprised as well as afraid at that time. Why she was afraid? You already know the answer from my brief introduction. I will tell again. And why she was surprised, as she do not see such a person like this before. She had a blind belief that the little children were taken away in the large bag. She had a blind belief. Blind belief means she was somehow convinced. She had somehow thought or believed that the little children were taken away by this particular person and was carried in that particular large bag which the Kabuliwala was carrying. That is why she was terror struck. That is why she was afraid and both surprised. Okay. After I made some small purchases from the peddler, he asked, "Where is the little girl, sir?" After I made means after I bought some of the something, I mean some small purchases means something that I bought from the peddler means from the trader. He asked, "Where is the little girl, sir?" Means this Kabuliwala asked about Minnie. Okay. I wanted Minnie to lose her false fear and sent for her. I means the father of Minnie wanted Minnie to lose her false fear. False fear means she had a belief that Kabuliwala was carrying the little children in his bag. So, but that was not true, right? So, his father, so her father wanted Minnie to lose that particular fear. That is why she wanted Kabuliwala to meet his daughter. Okay. She stood by my chair and looked at the Kabuliwala and his bag. Now what Minnie has done? She was standing by my chair means beside my chair, looked at the Kabuliwala and his bag. He offered her nuts and raisins, but she only clung closer to me. That means, although this particular Kabuliwala offered nuts and raisins, raisin is a particular fruit, to this little young girl, she only clung closer to me, means she only came closer to her father out of fear. Okay. My talkative child wouldn't speak a word. Now, as you all know, that this little girl was so talkative enough who cannot remain quiet for a single moment, didn't speak a particular word, didn't spoke a word. Okay, out of fear, out of surprise. This was their first meeting. This is for the first time the Kabuliwala or Minnie is meeting with a Kabuliwala. Okay. A few mornings later, however, I was startled to find Minnie laughing and talking with Rahman the Kabuliwala. Now see, a few mornings later, what has happened? I was startled, I was surprised to find Minnie laughing and talking with Rahman the Kabuliwala. That means the Kabuliwala's name was Rahman. So after few days in the morning time, the narrator have found Minnie was busy talking with Rahman. She was also busy in laughing with the Kabuliwala. Okay. He won the child over with his offerings of nuts and fruits. That means he won the child's heart. He won, or impressed he has impressed the child with his offerings or with his gifts of nuts and fruits. In all her life, my small daughter had never found such a patient listener. So patient a listener. That means throughout her life, this small little daughter had never found or had never got such a listener who patiently listened to all her talkings. That is, this particular man, the Kabuliwala. The two were now great friends. The two became very good friends then. Okay, so I hope you have understood till this much. I hope you have understood the true bond of friendship in between Kabuliwala and Mini. So, remembering this good thoughts about friendship, we must talk here. Uh, you try to listen to my audio lecture and try to understand. If you have any problem regarding understanding anything, ask me in the live class. I'm always there. Okay. So today till this much. I will continue the next part in the next lecture video. So thank you, my students. Bye bye.